Welcome into Sportsmemo's college basketball betting podcast, where we're going over Saturday's college basketball card with our college basketball expert, Brent Crow. Brent, welcome to the pod. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing good, Drew. How are you?
I'm doing good. Looking over this huge college basketball card for Saturday. We got almost 100 games here, a lot for the odds makers to do. So hopefully we can break down a couple games here, get the listeners on the right side of some of these line moves, because the lines haven't even come out, Brent. Chris will lead the market, right? Or bet online as far as sides. Chris with taking a little bit bigger limits there. But is that what you've been seeing in the college basketball markets? Chris leading the market, first to market?
Yeah, they're always up usually around 4:30, 5 o'clock Central Time for the day before, and everybody else just copies them as usual. But yeah, that's always been the case, and I don't guess anything's going to change with that.
Yeah, so we got the games for Saturday on the rotation numbers and everything, but no lines. So we're going to go off of we'll throw out Ken Palm's numbers, and kind of go from that. Get Brent Crow's opinion on where he thinks the line will open, and if he likes a side or a total in some of these Saturday college basketball games, guys. For the podcast coupon code, we got CBB499. You can get the rest of Brent Crow or any Sports Memo handicappers rest of college basketball season for just $499. That gets you all the way through the Final Four national championship game. No extra charges later, under $500 for the rest of the season. A lot of plays there. Great time to be betting college basketball as well, especially with so much for the odds makers to do this time of year, and especially on Saturday. Almost 100 games here. Let's get right into it, Brent. We got 6:05, 6:06, Michigan State at Ohio State. Big Ten matchup here, 12 noon Eastern tip. Looks like Ken Palm has it 74-72, Michigan State as a road winner here. That would be a total of 146. You agree with this number with Sparty -2, total of 146, Brent?
I would think Michigan State should be favored by a little bit more than that. I would say, somewhere in the 4 or 5 range. And you look at what Michigan State has done in conference play so far, 3-0, had a easy win over Northwestern the other night at home. And, of course, they won 2 games earlier at the 1st of December. So they're a perfect 3-0. And, this Michigan State team has got a lot of talent. They've got some size. They've got basically everything. Right now they're 10th in the nation in three-point percentage. They don't turn the ball over very much. They play defense well. I mean, definitely one of the top 7 or 8 teams in the nation. Ohio State at 12-1. Their resume is not that great. I mean, they had a win on the road against Cincinnati to open the season. Had a home loss to Syracuse. They're 2-0 in Big Ten play. They haven't resumed the Big Ten schedule yet since the break. But before the break, they beat Minnesota and Illinois to open 2-0. And this will be a very closely contested game. I think Michigan State probably winds up winning it. But if we have a 146 here, I'll probably look to play it under for the simple fact that Ohio State, when they've stepped up in competition, they haven't scored a lot of points. When they have even in their 2 Big Ten games, those totals were 138 and 144 against Minnesota and Illinois. But I think they'll have a little more trouble scoring against this Michigan State defense. Michigan State has been running. I mean, they look to push the pace and get out on the break and all. But I think Ohio State's not going to – they're going to do everything they can to slow this one down. And Ohio State defensively, pretty solid club. And we've seen Michigan State on the road struggle to score against Louisville and Florida, the two best teams they played on the road. They struggled. Didn't get anywhere near their season average in scoring. So, if you get a 146 or so, I'm definitely looking to play under here.
And Brent, let's head down south to the SEC. We got 609, 610 on the rotation numbers using the Sports Memo odds screen. Kentucky at Alabama. Ken Palm's numbers showing Kentucky 76, Alabama 72. So that would make Kentucky -4 favorites on the road in Tuscaloosa. Looks like a total of 148. How would you look to bet Kentucky, Alabama, Brent?
Right now I would look to play Kentucky. It seems like they've kind of figured it out over the last 3 or 4 games. They beat North Carolina. They dominated Louisville on the road. And early in the season, of course, all anybody remembers was them getting blown out by Duke. And then they played a lot of cupcakes wound up with a loss to Seton Hall, and then it just seems like they're a completely different team since that Seton Hall loss. They had the 27-point win over Utah, in addition to the wins over Carolina and Louisville, and there's no doubt this team has talent. They've got size and a young team. I think it just took a little while. I mean, they're talented, not as talented as Duke, the freshman at Kentucky, but still got a lot of talent. And then I've watched Alabama play a number of times, and last year's team with Colin Sexton basically dominating the ball. This year's team has maybe a little more overall talent, but they don't have Sexton, and it seems like they really struggle at times against good teams. And they haven't really faced a good schedule. I guess their best win comes against Penn State. They also have home loss to Georgia State. They lost to Central Florida on the road, and a neutral court loss to Northeastern. But on their home court, they're definitely going to be formidable. It's not going to be easy for Kentucky, but I just don't think Alabama matches up very well with the Wildcats. And I don't, Alabama offensively, they do a lot of one-on-one, and it's not like a real fine offensive system that Avery Johnson runs. So, and what I've noticed is when they play against teams that they have athletic advantages against, they do well. But when they're matched up with a team that they're not better athletically, Alabama struggles a little bit. And I think that'll definitely be the case against Kentucky.
And Brent, looking at the odds screen here, we get 603, 604 Clemson, Duke, and just talking Alabama. Do you see any kind of correlation in past years with the football team playing in the national championship and say, that weekend, a day or two off, the basketball team playing as either a bet on opportunity or a fade opportunity as far as kind of mindset with that team?
I don't think it has anything to do with it, no.
Okay. No, I wouldn't either. Just wanted to see your opinion on that. Also, any quick thoughts on Clemson, Alabama? I don't know if you've seen the ticket sales have like plummeted, it being way out there in California.
It's just too far away. It's too far of a trip. I think you've got, this is the fourth straight year that Alabama or both teams been in the playoff. So you've got a little of, it's not new. It's worn off a little bit. So I think that's and just the fact that I think a flight to San Francisco is like $1,000 from either anywhere in Alabama or South Carolina. So I mean, it's expensive to get there, and then hotel rooms out there are very expensive. So I think it's just kind of the novelty's worn off, and you're not getting the travel that you normally get. If the game was in Atlanta, prices would be outrageous, but I think, not that there's any fan apathy. I think, like I said, it's expensive, and it's not the first time. So you've got a lot of people that have been the last year or two and that are not doing. Everybody that's wanted to go to see Alabama play the national title has had the opportunity the last 3 years. So
yeah, that's a good way to put it. But you don't think it's like Alabama or even Clemson fan fatigue?
No, I think it's just like I said, the location and the opportunity. It's been there for it's not anything new. And I read on social media, just people around here that one guy I read said that his buddy had racked up $15,000 in credit card debt going to see Alabama play the national championship, and he couldn't go this year. I mean, like I said, I think that's part of it. Just the expense and all. Like I said, you can't drive from either school, obviously. So, $1,000 flight, probably looking at $1,000 for hotel room for 2 or 3 days. And I mean, it gets up there.
Yeah, for sure. I'll tell you this for whatever it's worth. I went to Auburn in the 2010 year. With Cam Newton, flew out to the Phoenix area and went to that national championship game. And I'll tell you, Brent, they were scalping tickets there, and there wasn't a ticket for under $1,500 to even get into the game. There just wasn't many tickets available. And then the Nick Marshall year, I guess only 3 years later in 2013, went back out to California. It was in the Rose Bowl, the national championship that year, and you could get in the stadium for under $200. So the difference in 3 years, and I think a lot of it had to do with, like you just said, a lot of Auburn fans that wanted to go to the national championship went in 2010 and didn't return in 2013 as much. Also, it was a bigger stadium, going from the Arizona Cardinals stadium to to the Rose Bowl. I think it added almost 25 or 30,000 seats. So the difference in ticket prices was pretty outrageous just in 3 years. I think that has something to do with it, just because, like you said, the Alabama fans and Clemson fans have had a chance to go to the national championship. Versus Virginia, 655-656 ACC matchup here. Ken Palm's got it Virginia 70, FSU 61, so that would make Virginia -9 and a total of 131. From doing these podcasts with you before and talking Virginia, we got a total with Virginia over 130. That's 131. Does that mean an auto under bet for you, Brent?
It most likely does. I mean, Virginia just coming off a 100-point performance against Marshall in a game that was the fastest-paced Virginia game that they've played. There were 76 possessions in that game, and that's by far and away the most possessions in a Virginia game. The last time, I just keep going back. I haven't found one yet. I'm at 2015. So that one was really out of Virginia's character. And, of course, a lot of it had to do with the way Marshall plays and plays defense that Virginia was able to capitalize. This is a pretty talented Virginia team offensively, maybe more so than they've had in a while. And, they were absolutely on fire against Marshall. So, that one got out of hand early. But don't think that you're going to see 76 possessions against Florida State, even though Florida State does like to get up and down the court. And Virginia's not going to be able to score as easily against this Florida State team as they did Marshall. Florida State right now 23rd in defense. They're off to a great start at 12-1. Kind of, the schedule's been okay. They beat LSU, they beat Florida, they beat Purdue, lost to Villanova. For the most part, everybody else has been cupcakes. But this is a pretty solid club. Florida State defensively, they've got some big guys. It's tough to score inside. You look at what these teams did last year. It's 59-55. Virginia with the win at Florida State. I think that was their only meeting last year. So in that one, there's 58 possessions. And I think you're going to see something similar to that here. Virginia, like I said, they're coming off a 100-point performance, probably due for a bad shooting day after they shot almost 60% against Marshall. And like I said, a totally different team defensively that they're facing with Florida State. So, if there's a 131 here, I'll bet it under.
Brent, staying in the SEC, we got 667, 668 Georgia at Tennessee. Ken Palm's numbers showing Tennessee 81, Georgia 66. So that would make it a total of 147, and Tennessee favored by 15. Big number here, Brent. One is, you think Tennessee's the side here? Any opinion total-wise? And also, do you think Tennessee's the best team in the SEC, and by how far over number 2, if so?
I think that Tennessee's, just barely above Auburn and Kentucky right now. Their resume speaks for itself. Their only loss was in overtime to Kansas. They beat Gonzaga on a neutral court. They've got a win over Louisville. And, this Tennessee doesn't have a lot of depth. They only play 7 or 8 guys, but all of them can play. They've got size. Kyle Alexander, 6'11". Grant Williams inside has been solid. One of the top 5 or 6 players in the country so far. They got Lamonte Turner back. He's played 3 games now at guard. And like I said, they don't have a lot of depth, but the guys that play can all play for this team. And Rick Barnes has done a really nice job with them. Offensively, they've been terrific. Defensively, they've been solid. And on their home court, the big number for a conference game, no doubt. I don't think you're going to see 15. It may be closer to 13 or so. But you look at Georgia this year under Tom Crean. They've tried to pick up the pace. Under Mark Fox, they were kind of middling. Didn't really play very fast at all. Kind of boring to watch for the most part. And Crean has got them running a little bit, but they just don't have a lot of weapons. You look at this team. There's no NBA guys on the court. Tyree Crump has had a decent start. Rashawn Hammond's also a pretty good start to the season. Turtle Jackson's been really disappointing so far. Who I thought he was going to be one of their main players the way he played at the end of the year last year. But I think Georgia's still, they're middle of the road SEC, and when they step up so far this year, they really hadn't done it much. They lose to Clemson by 15. They lost to Arizona State at home, and I think it's going to be a struggle for them against Tennessee. Tennessee's just so good on both sides of the court, offensively and defensively, and I think it's going to be an easy win for Tennessee. The total at 147, I could see it going over a little bit. Tennessee, like I said, so good offensively. And the pace should be fairly quick. I mean, Tennessee's not a team they'll take advantage of any opportunity that they can get in the open court. I mean, against Memphis, Tennessee ran up and down the court in that one. And, Georgia doesn't play as fast as Memphis, but they're not going to slow it down either.
Yeah, I mean, just looking down at what Tennessee has accomplished. One, they're undefeated in regulation so far this year. Their only loss in overtime versus Kansas. This is a big number, Brent. You bring up the fact that you think it will be down to 13. I don't think that Georgia's that bad, and also add on to this, Tennessee hasn't really been covering big numbers of late too much. So, does that scare you? I mean, Gonzaga? I guess Gonzaga's a good team, but like Samford, let me see here. A couple other games. Louisville within 10, I guess Georgia Tech right around this number of 13. I guess they have been all right at ATS, but I guess does the big number scare you off of it at all as far as looking towards the Tennessee side?
Not really. I mean, it's the first conference game. You shouldn't have any letdown whatsoever. They should be ready to play. And like I said, they're getting healthier with the addition of Turner. And again, I mean, 1 through 8, Tennessee has the advantage over Georgia in every spot, 1 through 8. So
let's get into the last game here. We got a late night action, 11 p.m. Eastern tip out west. BYU at St. Mary's. BYU 75, St. Mary's 82 is the projected game score here from Ken Palm. So seeing St. Mary's -7 going off of this, total of 157. Out west. How would you look to bet the nightcap here, Brent?
I was kind of disappointed in this total, hoping it wouldn't be anywhere near this. And I know this is not the line, but Ken Palm's numbers haven't been too far off from the openers total wise. So you're looking at somewhere around 156 to 158. And with St. Mary's, they're a team in the past that's always been slow. I mean, you look at last night, that game against San Francisco was totaled at about 133. So I was hoping that, you might see something in the closer to 150 here, because I want to bet it over, because St. Mary's plays a lot faster now than they have in the past. They don't play anywhere as good a defense as they have in the past. But I don't know if you watched it last night or not, but they got up and down the court several times after makes, and that game wound up with San Francisco at 148. And BYU, they're definitely going to run. I mean, that's been their way of playing under Dave Rose for a number of years. And this year's team is not very good defensively. Right now, they're ranked 158 in defense. And last night on the road against Pacific, they give up 87 points in 77 possessions. And for the most part on the road this year, they've been just absolutely horrible on defense. I mean, Weber State put up 113 against them. Mississippi State scored 103. So I think it's going to be a quick game as far as the pace goes. And like I said, BYU is not very good defensively. St. Mary's is down a notch defensively, but maybe even up a notch on offense under the Randy Bennett. He's got a pretty talented team offensively. But I look for a high-scoring game here. And actually, I do like St. Mary's to win the game. And if they're only laying 7, I'll probably lay it with St. Mary's as well, because, again, BYU on the road has struggled so much. They finally got a road win last night against Pacific, but stepping up in class, they've pretty much been blown out when they've done so on the road, and they're definitely stepping up a little bit here.
All right, Brent. Well, guys, we got the coupon code CBB499. That's CBB499 at checkout for Brent Crow's rest of college basketball season, or any handicapper on sportsmemo.com's rest of college basketball season. You can get all the way through the Final Four national championship for under $500 using that coupon code CBB499. Brent, anything else you want to get out to the listeners, or what are your plans for this Saturday CBB card?
Well, obviously, it's a big card, and we're going to do what we normally do, look for winners on the total side. I know, Drew, you've been hot. What have you won, 7 out of 8 totals?
Yeah. In college basketball, it's been good, and listen to a lot of what you've had to say using Ken Palm and trying to find change. It's definitely a way to win in the college basketball markets. So yeah, man, it's been good of late, Brent.
That's good, and just keep it up.
All right, man, and you as well. Best of luck on the big card tomorrow. Make sure to check out sportsmemo.com, guys, here on Friday night as the numbers start coming in and we get a full marketplace here, a full marketplace on the college basketball totals and sides market. Sportsmemo.com is a good free odds service to check that out. And as guys are coming in with plays Friday afternoon, Friday night, Saturday morning, make sure to check it out, college basketball betting-wise, and hopefully get you a couple winners. So remember the coupon code CBB499 at checkout, under $500 for the rest of the college basketball season. Thanks for tuning in. Best of luck with your bets, and have a safe, fun weekend this weekend, guys. Talk to you on Monday.